Anyway, you guys want to talk about pyramid schemes? We kind of talked about BDG a little bit. BDG, Brutal Democracy Gaming. I can give you guys a short summary. There was a small implosion, and then a bigger implosion, and then a larger implosion in that order of the fighting game team BDG. It started with people just being like, hey, I was with BDG, and they treated me very badly, right? Like, I was with them, they didn't listen to me at all, they didn't care about me, etc., 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 right? Then it comes out that after the very first few people came out against them, people in the org were like reporting them and trying to dig up bad things about them and, all this kind of stuff after they treated their members really badly. Then more and more people started coming out with, well, I was in BDG, and as being part of BDG, you have to pay monthly to be in this organization if you're not big enough. And I heard that. And I was like, no way. You gotta be kidding me. Then the more and more info came out about it, the more sad it made me, because there are people who are paying to be a part of this organization. And the higher up you are, the better you're doing. You're making money and you're feeling great about being part of BDG. The people on the bottom who are paying into it and making sure that this thing exists, their grievances are like extremely easy to solve. If they had just sent out a few t-shirts and listened to people's suggestions and been slightly nicer, I feel like the people who were paying into the org wouldn't have even been upset. Like, when you read people's complaints, they're like, they didn't hear me out. They were supposed to send me like shirts or graphics, and they never got around to it. These are extremely solvable. And the sad thing is, if you think about it, a slightly more competent organization could have just had this done, and then the team would not have exploded. Think about how many people were on this team that are large names in the fighting game community, right? Like, James Chen was on BDG. Cloud805 was on BDG. Lil Majin joined BDG. Yehozy was on BDG. Like, think about the people who are on BDG that you like look at it and you're like, huh, this is probably a relatively reputable team. This team managed to get all 4 of them and tons and tons of other people. Consider that it's pretty likely that a team that has slightly more, or who can pretend to have slightly more, can get people. I'm going to assume they didn't realize what was happening, since once the team all fell apart, everybody bounced real quick. They were like, all right, well, I'm getting out of here. Good on their end. Somebody had the Wi-Fi contract, and then it was good on their end. That's what happened. Anyway, it's pretty easy to fall into these traps and these tricks if you're not careful or conscious. When it comes to stuff like this, there's a few lessons to be learned here. First and foremost, don't fall for a pyramid scheme. When I was in high school, I had a friend who invited me to a seminar. Have you guys ever been invited to these? They sell knives, or I think in my friend's case, they sold candles. And they're like, oh yeah, this person sold 5,000 candles. They bought a house and a car in 4 months of work. They're rich. You can be a millionaire in 1 year if you just work super hard and sign everybody up. Like, there's so many of these energy drinks. It's whatever it is, right? People at the bottom, they pay in and they're spending all this money up front to get this product that they're never going to sell. And then people who recruit them up at the top are making a bunch of money off of it, and they feel great. And then it crumbles, and then they bail. So my friend invited me to one when I was in high school, and I saw what it was like, and I looked up what a pyramid scheme was, and I told him no. And he got super pissed off at me. He was like, dude, it's just an opportunity. You got to go. I was like, there is no opportunity. And he was super mad at me about it. And like a few months later, he was no longer involved in the pyramid scheme, and it had fallen apart and disappeared, and I'm sure he lost a bunch of money. It's always the same shit. I think that that's one thing to consider. The second thing about it, to me, is like, it is rather unfortunate that so many people were cool with the bare minimum this team offered. Just think about the stakes of fighting game teams where you were paying them, and all they had to do was get you a shirt and give you some support, some graphics, that kind of stuff, social presence, etc., and people were okay with it. That is the state of some fighting game agreements or arrangements between teams. That's awful. That should not be the case. First of all, you should not be paying a team to be on there, right? By that logic, every subscriber of mine, you guys are on an esports team. By paying $5 a month, all of you are on the Rollbackian esports teams. Pat yourselves on the back. You can go tell your parents you're a professional esports player. It's also much cheaper to subscribe to my channel than be on that esports team. That's pretty wild to think about. It's just unfortunate because for fighting games team for a long time, the deals were so bad. The joke about fighting game teams, and there's an option select article about it. The joke is that fighting game teams will sign you and give you a t-shirt and then be like, cool, we've done our part. Now represent us for 3 years or something. And you're like, what? Like, the deals are so bad. These days, it's much more common for teams to offer salary and have a specified amount of travel and have a YouTube person for you and like all these kinds of things, right? Especially top tier teams. These are super common now in deals compared to long ago where the deals were like, you want one flight to Evo and a t-shirt? Hell yeah, we got you. I would say that it's important no matter what level of anything you are. If you're ever going to sign with a team or if you're ever going to sign anything, you should have people look at it and you should really consider what you're joining before you do it. Let's say you have a full-time job or whatever, and a team wants to work with you and they're going to offer you trips to all these events and a jersey and support and all that kind of stuff, but they're not offering you salary. A lot of fighting game players just take it because they're like, well, I have a job. I'm not pursuing this full time. Travel to X amount of events a year is like all I really want out of it anyway, right? Then there's like an agreement and understanding of what you're getting into. But in cases like this, you really can't let people get away with this kind of stuff. Do not sign to any team or org or anybody who's not offering you anything. And I don't mean anything as like a t-shirt, all right? Don't accept a t-shirt. Only sign for unlimited orange chicken. That's what I'm talking about. Give me the chicken. Slide it over. If I went to a meeting and they're like, Sajam, we have nothing to offer you but this bucket of orange chicken, I'd be like, send the contract to my people. Listen. I was talking to Inful, and he doesn't really know anything about Dragon Ball, right? He was like, Gogeta? Isn't there already a Gogeta of some kind in the game? And I was like, oh boy, this is Gogeta, but a different transformation from a non-canon storyline of Dragon Ball. And he's like, okay, why is he red with like a monkey tail? And you're like, okay, well, Saiyans, here's how their background works. He's like, who the hell is Super Baby 2? Why isn't it an adult person? I'm like, well... Stop Gita and Gogeta are like the two opposite forces in the Dragon Ball universe vying for supremacy.